Welcome to Gotta Run. This is Will Sanchez. Thank you for tuning in. My special guest today is Charlie Springer. Charlie has a unique talent. Actually has several. He is a former Marine, but he's one of a few handful that has done every Goofy challenge and every Dopey challenge as part of the Walt Disney Marathon. We're going to learn all about these intriguing races from Charlie Springer.
Thank you.
Well, you just did number 14, I think.
The 14th Goofy Challenge and the 6th Dopey Challenge.
Okay. Obviously, Goofy was such a success, they had to bring Dopey into it.
Yes, probably to get more money. Let the cash registers roll.
How does the Goofy work?
Well, the Goofy Challenge is a half marathon on Saturday and a marathon on Sunday. And the Dopey Challenge is a 5K on Thursday, 10K on Friday, half marathon Saturday, and a marathon on Sunday. Now, when you do both the Goofy and Dopey challenges, you get an extra medal for each one. You get one for each of the 4 races, and then they throw in the Goofy medal and the Dopey medal.
Okay, so it's a lot of hardware. I did the Goofy one year, and that was a challenge enough to do the half marathon and the marathon because it could get warm, even though it starts early.
That's true. Actually, this year was pretty warm. It got up to 78 degrees. And those of us in the marathon, I remember at mile 17, you know where mile 22 is, which is only a couple of 100 yards away, but we still had to go through the sports complex and come out. I remember as I came out and I was nearing the 22-mile mark, I could see the runners on the other side, and it looked like The Walking Dead, actually.
Zombies.
Yes. And the thing is, we don't need makeup.
You look naturally dead.
Yes.
But these Disney events are not meant to do your personal best. They're really entertainment because you're going through the complex, the Disney complex.
Yes.
And in fact, there's certain places you could stop and take photos with the characters.
That is correct. And sometimes I wonder about the 5K, the line looks like it's going to be 10 or 15 minutes long. And why would you want to stop and take pictures? In the marathon, I open up a little. I did stop once by the morticians. They had a casket out there, and I think a runner didn't make it because she was reaching out of the casket for help.
A little sense of humor there, macabre humor. The runner didn't make it.
Well, the other thing about the marathon and the Dopey Challenge, now I got there probably about 8:25 in the morning, and the park isn't open to the guests yet.
Right.
But I remember in prior years when I got there after 9, runners were waiting on line to go on the Everest ride, which includes a backward loop and a spiral turn, and they did it. And this year, they opened up the concession stand, and they were selling beer, and some of the runners were there partaking in it in the middle of the run.
Oh,
this
middle.
This is almost at the half marathon point.
You're one of a handful to actually done all of them, all the Goofies, all the Dopies.
Right, probably.
Okay. And I think you do it with a friend. Does George go with you?
Yes, George goes with me and Janet. We did the first Dopey Challenge 5 years ago.
You know, when I did it more than a few years ago, it was relatively easy to get into to do these. You could register for the half, and you could register for the marathon as individual races. But if you wanted that Goofy medal, you had to register in a special way.
That's correct. They come together. It's a separate category when you go online.
And it's more money, even though...
Of course.
You don't save money by, you know, you don't get that extra. You got to cover the cost of the extra medal.
Yeah.
And now they sell out pretty quickly. So what's your strategy for making sure you get in?
Well, this year, George is a DVC member, so I signed on as a guest of his, so I got in early.
What's a DVC?
Disney Vacation Club member.
Oh, okay.
So they give them a little, an extra perk. Actually, in the past, I did get it because I had the Disney credit card. They sent me early notice. From what I found out this year, those of us who are perfect in the Dopey, even if we sign up late and it's full, they'll get us in.
I know in other races, if you did the inaugural, let's say you were number 50 in the marathon, they always gave you 50 as you went on. But not in this case, you get a different
No, they
number.
don't. Actually, we met a woman there who's done all 25, and she has the same number that she had in the original marathon.
Ah, so she's one of the few that's actually done every Disney marathon.
What she also told Janet was that they thought they would do away with the perfect stuff after 25 years, but instead they give her free entry now for all the races after marathons after the 25th one. She doesn't have to pay for them.
Really?
But I'm sure she has to pay if she stays at the hotels and all that.
That's
parks.
expensive. So it's a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So when did you get there?
We get there on Tuesday, which is the day before you can pick up your numbers on Wednesday.
Okay. They have the expo, of course.
Yes, and all these years I've been down there since 1994, except for 95, 96, and 97. I've been lucky with the weather here in New York. No problems. Had no snow.
You're going delayed out of New York.
That is correct.
Okay. Well, knock on wood, because this knows to happen. But
Yes.
I guess you plan ahead. You probably talk to Amy Freeze at the WABC TV station and get the upstate.
I work for Mickey Mouse, basically, at the end of the day.
And we support her, boss.
You probably pay for Mickey Mouse's grandchildren the college education at this point.
And then some.
So let's go back to the beginning.
Okay.
Tell us where you were born and something about your growing up years.
I was born here in New York City, in Bellevue. Cast no aspersions on my mother. And
They had a maternity award back in
Yes.
those days?
Yes.
Interesting.
But we had lived in Manhattan for about four years or so. We moved to Queens, Woodside, Queens. It's a house that actually had no boiler in it. We had to you had to heat the water on the stove and everything for a bath.
Oh my
But then we
gosh.
moved a few blocks away and we had all the niceties of
In Queens.
in Queens.
So you consider yourself a Queens boy.
Yes, yes, I do.
Okay. And then growing up in Queens, were you athletically inclined?
Well, in the neighborhood, we played softball, or we played what we called high-lie on the handball courts, or stickball, which probably no one knows about anymore.
Did you know stickball has its own Hall of Fame?
No.
Okay, all the neighborhood kids played stickball,
Yeah, I think they have a Hall of Fame for everything under the sun.
perhaps. So where did you go to high school?
I went to Stuyvesant High School in Manhattan.
Oh.
Don't ask me how I got in, but I passed the test.
Because that's right. You still got to pass a test.
That is correct.
And you probably got to pass an interview as well.
I don't recall us having an interview.
But
I
just
think
test.
it was just a test. And a few of us from what was then known as junior high school 145, also got in, and we traveled, the four of us traveled into Manhattan from the 74th Street station in Jackson Heights. Friends from junior high school.
Oh, okay. You all got into Stuyvesant.
Yes.
It was a tough school to go, but I guess if you're from Queens and a smart kid, you get it.
Well, some people might question the smart part of it, but
Well, smart enough. Well, but I think Stuyvesant has moved this location. I think it's now
yes, it's on the west side.
probably has a better gym than what you were used to.
Oh yeah, definitely. Actually, I did visit it once, and they even have a swimming pool in the new Stuyvesant High School. But the old one didn't have showers, and they had a track which was on the second level, and in the pathway there were two columns that kind of had to squeeze in together. It was a slanted track, and it was 33 times around for a mile, is what they said.
Get dizzy after a while.
Yes, I'm sure
my
you
gosh.
did. Yeah.
Now you have to do all, or they make you turn
Well,
around halfway.
No, we never. It was a circular track, but I don't think we even ran that far. Maybe 100 yards.
100 yards.
If we were
Okay.
lucky.
All right. I guess physical fitness wasn't high up at Stuyvesant.
Yeah. Well, we had a rope climb there, which is neat. You know, you climb up hand over hand with your legs in an L position.
Yeah, well, I guess Was President Kennedy one of your influences? Because I think he started the National Health
yeah,
or
but I
Fitness
didn't
Program.
know too much, but we were into it already.
You went on to college. Where did you go?
At first, I went to Cooper Union.
That's another tough school. That's
Yeah.
mostly a design school,
No, it's not. It's an engineering school.
engineering school.
Yes, it's also a liberal arts school, but that was the old building, the old Peter Cooper building.
Yeah, yeah.
Which has a round elevator because Peter Cooper thought at the time they didn't have elevators yet that they would invent it and it would be round. And as we know,
He didn't realize it would
Right.
be rectangular.
and that's where Abraham Lincoln gave his right makes might speech, and he allegedly went over to McSorley's after that speech. And actually, even when I was in college there, it was a men's only bar,
McSorley's. Yeah.
McSorley's.
Yeah.
And then eventually, women were allowed in, but they didn't have separate facilities. So we had to stand outside the door as the women would use the facilities. And then they eventually put it in.
Interesting. So you're right there at the beginning of the changes of the
changeover.
sexes.
Yeah. Started out as a civil engineer
You want to build roads.
and bridges, and good thing I
So what happened?
didn't keep it up because who knows what would happen with those bridges and tunnels and everything. No, I wasn't doing well in school, so I decided to go into the service. I had been in a party, and I was telling this guy that I was thinking going into the Army, but he was a Marine reservist. I said, why don't you try the Marines instead? So I did. Gullible me did. I told my mother, and she said, why don't you join the Army instead? Because as you know, in 1967, the war was building
Vietnam
up and
War, yeah.
everything. Yes.
But the Marines, they're the tough guys. I mean, you got to be physically fit. So you obviously,
Yeah.
you were physically fit.
Yes, I was. In fact, I could do I think they call them Japanese push-ups, where you're spread eagled on the
Really?
ground.
You can lift yourself
But
up.
I gave it a little cheat to do that. So I was able to do that.
Excellent. How did you learn those skills? It sounds like Stuyvesant wasn't the one was pushing you athletically.
Yeah, my mother came from what was then Czechoslovakia, and the Czechs came over here and they set up what are called the Sokals, who do gymnastics and everything. So at an early age, I was doing gymnastics. I was a fair gymnast. That's
Okay.
the best I could say for myself.
Well, good enough to get into the Marines. So this is the influence of your mother's European training or
Yes.
European upbringing.
Yeah.
A fit body.
Sound mind and a sound body is their motto, the Sokals, which means hawks, I believe.
So you went off to Vietnam?
Yes. Actually, when I was on leave, I visited my recruiter. And he told me that he would be probably shipping over to Vietnam sometime in January or February, 1968.
Yeah.
So we left Quai Son on July 5th, 1968. We went to Qua Viet province, and they had real chow there. You don't understand, but real chow for us, living out of cans for the better part of 6 months.
MREs or something?
No. It was C rations or what they called K rations.
Oh, it's not as good as, what is it called? Ready-made
MRE, meals ready to eat.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was well before my time. It turns out
Your recruiter.
he's my platoon gunny. Not only was he was my platoon gunny. Yeah. And then later on, I was interviewed when we were down near Da Nang by a Stars and Stripes reporter, and the article eventually wound up in the Daily News also. So I do have copies of those. They said Marine and recruiter meet / in peace.
Well, how long were you there in Vietnam?
13 months, 12 and 20, as they say.
12 and 20?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
12 months, 20 days.
Oh.
Because in the old days, apparently, from what I understand, is that they use ships to transport you. It was 10 days out, 10 days back. But they decided, we'll fly you in. Just imagine flying in like a 707 into a war area. So they kept it 20 years.
I want to thank you for your service. I mean, the Vietnam
Yeah.
War was horrible in this country, a lot of grief. When you returned, how were you greeted?
The only one that ever said welcome home was the, what was then called a stewardess. So she's the only one that said welcome home.
Yeah, you guys were really
Well, nothing, my
abused.
return, I personally was not abused.
Abused. Okay. Well, I don't know if it's unique to the Vietnam War, but a lot of suicides, a lot of alcoholism, a lot of drug abuse.
There was drug abuse from what I understand much, later on, after 1969. The thing is, they were probably just drafting kids who were on the drugs already and didn't do anything about it. But one thing, when they had the Tet Offensive,
Yeah.
my mother wrote me a letter. She said, the first line is, "Dear Charlie, I think you joined at the wrong time because there's fighting all over Vietnam." You got to treasure that.
But you survived any injuries?
I once dropped a mortar round on my toe, but that was the worst of it. We had once a round land in front of our bunker. There were 10 of us. If we were 5 feet over,
You were up
we would have been names on a wall that we didn't know would exist.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
it's just, sometimes it's just luck.
Gosh, did you have friends that I guess didn't make it?
Yes, we had, in our mortar platoon, Richard Road was killed April 21st, 1968, and then Markham and Howe were killed on August 1st, 1968, and that was they were handling the mortar rounds. It was a bad fuse, and it just blew up on them.
Oh, gosh.
And
Oh, wow. Well, you never forget that, obviously.
no, I don't. I know 5 names on the wall, and
Which wall is that?
the one in Washington, D.C.
Well, you're one of the lucky ones. You were able to come back in one piece. Mostly with your marbles intact.
Oh, yeah. Though I'm sure you think they're not sometimes.
Although anybody that doesn't miss a Goofy or a Dopey may have a few loose marbles somewhere.
Well,
but you went back to school. You said the night school. Is that to
Night
become
school.
an accountant?
Yes.
So how did you decide that field?
I went to, I was looking in a book for possible careers and everything. I went to Queensborough Community College. I went in during the day, and I worked at a shoe store in the evening hours.
Running shoes or just regular shoes?
Chandler's shoes, women's shoes.
Interesting.
One woman said, I write lefty. You couldn't have been brought up right.
So you're left-handed.
But yet I got A's in my notebooks in high school. And
in your premiership, you mean?
Yeah. I follow my friend's philosophy of using print letters, not cursive.
Oh, okay.
And it worked out pretty well.
Okay. That's interesting. We were raised to write cursive.
Yeah.
Although I think that's now a lost skill.
Yeah, it's kind of a shame.
I know. Now everybody's
it'll be
computers.
it'll be the hieroglyphics in the future.
I know. All right. Well, you mentioned your daughters. How many children did you have?
I just the one daughter.
The one daughter. How old is she now?
She's going to be 37.
Oh my gosh, she's
It's older than
got
me.
family around probably.
It's older than me.
Older than me. So did she turn out athletically minded?
No.
You mentioned your wife. She encouraged you running, and she wanted to eventually.
We were
do a marathon.
We were in Greenpoint, sitting on the curb, watching the marathoners go by. She said, "I'd like to do that one day," but I was the one that, started out to do the 1981 marathon, and then the following year, my daughter was born.
82.
82.
82 is a big year.
Which her birth date is what Forrest Gump got wrong in the movie.
You died on a Saturday morning. I had you placed here under a tree. Mama always said dying was a part of life. I sure wish it wasn't.
Because he said Jenny died on a Saturday.
Right.
Well, then they show the picture of the tombstone, which said March 22nd, 1982. That was a Monday, because that was the date my daughter was born.
Interesting. But sadly, I saw that your wife passed away.
Yes, she developed cancer, and she passed away in 1989.
So
It
sad.
was detected in 1984.
What kind of cancer?
It was breast cancer. But I remember I was in the hospital with my sister, and my wife was on the gurney outside, and here the doctors are inside talking about it may have come about because of childbirth or something, but who knows?
The cancer was
But I had to-
caused by childbirth?
Yeah.
I
Yes.
remember reading, also somebody saying, women that give birth have less likelihood of developing cancers than
Right.
women never give birth.
Right.
So yours is the opposite. Well,
Yeah, it turned out to be a C-section, actually. At 11:59 p.m.
okay. Well, I'm so sorry to hear for your loss. So I know you do a lot of marathons. Done New York City many times,
I think 8 or 9 times.
but you've done a lot of running and inspired a lot of people.
Well, I try to.
Okay. Well, you're a Marine and you do triathlons too.
Yes, I do. Probably 70 to 75.
Oh,
over
my
the
gosh.
years. Actually, Priscilla, Priscilla.
Well, when I met her, she was the head of the New York City chapter of the Galloway Running Group.
Right.
In fact, she introduced me to the Galloway, and that's where we met.
Right. That's correct.
Well, I started running in 2003.
Okay.
So,
So it had to be.
so I probably joined Galloway 2005. It was shortly after I did my first marathon,
What was your first marathon?
the Vermont City to team and training.
We did that one, and I remember. We all remember how hot it was.
It can't be hot. There's only one hill.
Yeah. But
Uh,
yeah. That was like what, the 15th or 16th mile,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
they had that Japanese
to
band or
get you
something
up the
there.
hill.
Yeah. And they tease you at the end. You see the finish line, but no, you have to go beyond it and then turn around and come back.
That part I don't remember. That was my first marathon. After that, I wanted to continue running, and somehow I heard about Galloway. Emailed Priscilla. She says, "Try us out," and that was the day I met Elvia,
Yes. By the way,
Robin.
Elvia, she ran her first marathon, and that was going to be her last one. As you know,
She's doing all 50
She's
states.
still
It's
doing-
very close.
yeah, I'm not. I've lagged lately, but George and I are going to try to get back on the wagon again.
To do the 50 states.
Do at least 3 or 4 a year.
Okay.
A few years ago, we did 6 of them in 4 months. Well, Elvia did 5 states in 5 days.
I know. It's
Yeah.
incredible.
It's ironic. My first real run was in Paris Island. It was always hot and humid during the summer.
But this is
But it's the
when we're in the Marines.
Yes.
This is Paris Island, famous for training Marines. Where is that anyway?
It's in South Carolina. I think it's off Beaufort, South Carolina. And it was a 3-mile run. It was a build up to
with
this
the gear.
run. With the gear, combat boots, and utilities with long sleeve utilities, a helmet, a backpack, and an M14 rifle is pretty heavy. But we did 3 miles in 27 minutes. Now I can't even do that with shorts and a t-shirt on.
Well, you were probably, 22?
19.
19. You were healthy and
as I tell
strong as a
people,
bull.
it's good to be 19.
Well, the Marine Corps Marathon, they have a group of guys running, and I don't know.
yes.
They're in formation.
My first Marine Corps marathon was 2 weeks after my best New York ever back in 1982. I finished about 23 minutes slower than New York, but that's okay.
That's
I finished,
okay.
and that's what
All
counts.
right. You said you became a tax accountant. As you know, I think this is 2019. So 2018 is the year of the tax cut, right? The Trump.
That is correct.
So what can we look forward to?
Well, I know from a preparer's point of view, they've changed the forms quite a bit.
The 1040, you mean?
Yes.
It's supposed to be easier.
They have, I know. It's like the 1040 is 2 pages, then they have like 6 schedules you put information on, which flows to the first sheets. But I was just doing, I have some information on my own, so I was just input some information. And then if you look at the column, it said add lines 1 through 5. And it didn't add up to the number that was on line 6. They put capital gains on a separate inset thing, but they don't identify that as being part of the additions you have to make. It just not logical.
Well, most accountants use software, so hopefully
yeah.
tax cut or whatever the software
Yeah.
are.
Well, the thing is, I don't think you could do a return without a tax program.
So it sounds like there are going to be some surprises, some glitches, coming up.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But luckily, I think the IRS is going to send out those refunds relatively on time.
If you e-file, you're going to get it quicker than if you were to paper file. New York State, it's mandatory to e-file.
The lines at the post office, of the day that is due, the 15th, it's huge.
Well, I remember when I was in the corporate world, we get now the consolidated return. My friend stood next to it. We piled it up, one book on top of the other. It was taller than he was. But we had to bring it down to the General Post Office on 34th Street. But it's no longer open till midnight. So I think the post office is making a big mistake. Funny story, in the old days for the New York City Marathon, you had to go to the General Post Office, so it would be postmarked after midnight. So you know where the front steps are. That's where the end of the line started. And it went all the way around the block. And that's 2 blocks wide, and the avenue is
This is just to get your marathon thing.
This is just to get the application for the marathon. You had to pay a fee. But once midnight came, the line moved pretty quickly because all we had to do was put them in the cases that they had.
Now you do it online.
Yes.
It's a little easier, and then e-filing is a lot better than going to the post office.
Yes.
And all that stuff.
Yes, it is.
Okay, and then finally, athletically speaking, obviously you're going to be doing the Goofy and the Dopey as long as you can.
April 16th of 2019 is the registration for 2020.
It's the next one. I guess it's the next one. You said it's going to be the 15th. Do you expect anything special?
Sometimes they made the medals extra special. I think, was it the 15th or the 20th marathon, they made the Mickey medal a surprise. In other words, you don't see it until you get it. Nowadays, if you go to an expo, Disney has a booth and they have all the medals lined up already.
Oh, you can see it
So you know what
in advance.
Yeah.
Okay.
But, a surprise is sometimes good.
All right. And then any final words of wisdom, either tax-wise or running-wise?
Running-wise, well, I think you should thank the volunteers at all the races, because in the Disney Marathon, they're out there at 2 a.m. Our races start at 5:30 in the morning, and the weather could go either way. It could be very cold, and it has been, or it could be very warm.
Well, both could very cold, and then...
Yes, in fact, coming after the Grand Floridian, it got cool because we think it was by the golf courses and there was water. But sometimes it has started at 60 degrees, 90-something% humidity.
And the volunteers are there.
And the volunteers are already out there. And something you probably don't see in New York, you can see Venus and Jupiter.
At the start of the race?
Very bright.
Venus and Jupiter.
Yes.
That's interesting.
I don't recall ever seeing it in New York City.
So if you're into the constellations.
Yeah.
So the astrologer's dream, if you're into astrology or numerology, the Disney Marathon
is the place to go.
The Goofies is in the... All right. On that note,
Good.
thank you so much for
Thank
coming.
you.